So, a value drawing unit would not be complete without using some charcoal. So we've got these nice K-O-L-E, charcoal pieces, but you could use any charcoal if you wanted to. The Vine charcoal is a little light. I prefer these kind of darker ones. And we're going to begin by toning the paper a little bit. Don't get it too dark. I'm going to lay the charcoal down on its side and just barely put any pressure. Have a nice wide swath with this charcoal. Gonna get a little dirty with the charcoal, so just embrace it. Just jump right in, blend this all together. All right. Yep. You're going to look kind of like this. It's all right. Quiet down, please. All right, so the materials we've got are charcoal. We've got a nice wedge cap eraser. These are kind of getting old, so we cut off the tip. We're still going to be able to get a nice edge on that. Or if you have any kind of a pink eraser or whatever, but they probably will get ruined. And if you just designate that to only charcoal, that's fine. We're also going to be using our regular blender stump here. I got a medium-sized one. We've used these with the graphite before. You're just going to use the same one for the charcoal. Those of you guys that are in quarantine, you need to send somebody up here to get these things, or contact your friend via text, or you can email me and tell me who to send this stuff home with, but you need to get these things, obviously, to do this drawing. So I hope you have them. If not, pause the video and get them and come back and visit with us. So this is a lot like the fisherman drawing that we did, where we toned the paper with the graphite and then we started erasing the shapes of light. That's exactly what we want to do here. We're not going to do it upside down like we did the fisherman drawing. You could, if you looked at it like this, you could see what we're trying to see is just shapes of light. This looks like a kind of an arrow pointing down. If you wanted to try to approach it that way, you can, but we're not always going to be able to turn things over to get it to the right side of our brain. We're going to have to just train ourselves to be in the right side of our brain and see the shapes the way they are. So just like the fisherman, well, we started with the forehead shape on the fisherman. And this one, I'm going to start with the nose shape. Keep calling it a shape because that's what I want you guys to see it as. Again, it kind of looks like an L right here for light. We're going to see it as the shape of light. Estimate where it's going to land on your paper over here and how big it needs to be. You can even just take an estimate like this and just move it over here and say, okay, it's going to need to be there. You can take a measurement if you needed to, measuring from the top of the nose to here, and it's about that big. Or you can just do the best you can with your sight measuring. With my finger, I'm drawing where I'm about to erase that shape of light. You can see it's kind of toward not in the middle of the page, but a little bit to the left. Just going to take my eraser, and again, the shape that I'm looking at is this one. Kind of angles down to the right, and begin to erase that out. Try to match the size. Maybe a 3-inch long shape there. Kind of curves a little to the left at the bottom and has a round edge to it at the bottom. Obviously is the nose. And then it just basically goes straight over with a slight angle up to the right like this. And then again, there's a little circular shape on the end. That's going to be the nostril. So begin with that shape. You guys see that okay on the... Yeah. You're going to be able to see it real clear once we start darkening things. As we go through erasing the shapes of light, we're also going to be, darkening the shapes of dark, matching those values as well. So after we have that basic nose shape, we're going to put the forehead shape in. There's a couple of little angles here that you're going to want to pay close attention to. It looks like two dark hills, basically. We're going to be erasing those out. So I'm going to go to the left first, just because it's closer. So from the top of that nose shape, it angles up to the left. You're going to have to do some sight measuring. How far does that go over? Or if you can just see how far over it goes. Sight measuring would be, okay, the length of the nose. If I took that and turned it over here, it's definitely not that far. I'd say it's about half the nose length. So it just angles up to the left and then has a slight, ever so slight little chip that comes right down there on the left side. Now let's go the other way. So we're going to be making this, erasing this shape of light that angles up to the right, gets to the top of the hill, and then comes down on the other side. Up to the right, angles down. Now the forehead shape is really easy. It's basically a big triangle. Looks kind of like a tent. So from the left, just get your angle right. Comes up to a point, and then it just comes down and meets the other part of the light right there. It's like a triangle. Erase that all out. There are some bigger erasers over there if you need them. We are going to need one that has a little bit of an edge on it when we do the eyes. Alright, go ahead and pick up your charcoal, and let's begin at this point right here. So this is like the inside of the, of the eye socket area. And just so that you can start having some clarity to this drawing, just outline that shape that you just erased, that little hill, what I call the dark hill, like this. Just kind of push that a little bit darker. And then it's going to be dark, dark, dark until you get beyond where the nostril is. Again, if I drew a line straight up from the nostril, now this is a 3/4 view and he's looking kind of down to the left, but still, if I drew a line straight up from the nostril, that's going to tell me where these eye shapes are going to come in. Alright, so I've darkened over to about there. And then what I want to do before I get too far with the charcoal, more than one way to do this. You could just draw it with the charcoal, but I really want to see these two shapes of light. It's the eyelids. There's one right there and there's one right there. Those are going to be very important, almost even more important than the eyeball itself to capture this. So again, once I get past where the nostril is, if I drew a line straight up, that's going to show me where these begin, and it's just a little sliver, a little toenail looking shape, fingernail cut off. So I erase that little piece of light, and then another one right above that that's not quite so long. And I'm going to go ahead and outline them so you can see what I did real clearly. When you're drawing with the charcoal, find an edge, find a corner, and you can really get a pretty good line with it. Now as I outline that, I'm going to try to capture one edge of the eyeball right here. It's this line right there. So I just outlined, I came in where the pupil is, and then I just skipped a little bit and put one little line. That's all I really have to do to capture this eye. It can be captured very simply. Now once we start doing some blending here, it's going to start looking pretty nice. But while we're on the eyes, I'd say let's go ahead and just get both of them knocked out, because it's the exact same thing on the other side. I just go dark right underneath the shape that I erased out. And I'm going to target those two little shapes of light. I have to get a new eraser because my other one's getting dull. Keep in mind, real basic for now. If you guys can capture more of those details, please try. But we can always come back and do more detail stuff later. I'm just getting the basic shapes first. As I'm looking at my drawing, I'm realizing that my nose is way too short. Like if I take a comparison of this whole eye socket area right here, like I'm taking a measurement on this, look at that, and then I turn it, that's the length of the nose. But look at my drawing, this shadow and here. So that's okay. I'm just going to make an adjustment here by shading in there and bringing the nose down a little bit longer. Stuff happens like that all the time when you're drawing. Drawing is kind of like a living, breathing thing. It changes as you work on it. Make those adjustments early on. You'll be glad you did. I just made mine a little longer. Maybe yours isn't messed up like mine was, or you're okay with it. So, okay, this next part, you're going to really start seeing the face start to emerge as we erase out the cheeks, the highlights for the cheeks. So again, hope you have plenty of eraser. If not, come get more. I want to use up all these ones that we've got. Before I give you guys new ones, feel free to use all these up. All right, you guys ready for the erasing of the cheeks? Yeah, I should have told you guys, just get 2 or 3 of those. You know, we're just going to use them up, and they're on their last leg. We'll pitch them at the end of the hour. All right. So the side of the nose here, that value is actually going to stay about the same. We're going to have to do much with that. But this whole cheek right here, this big area right here needs to be lightened up. It's got to be erased out. So just start right below the eye. Don't erase your nice dark line under that bottom eyelid. And just start working over here onto the cheek, the high part of the cheekbone. Just erasing that out. Don't let it run into the nose where you have erased the nose out. You'll notice there's a pretty dark mark there on the outside of the nostril. Go ahead and take the time while you're doing your erasing to do some darkening around that nostril like that. That way you don't accidentally blend the nose into the cheek. So again, I'm just erasing out the cheek, leaving the side of the nose, and drawing a dark line for the side of the nostril. Now you guys are about to see the magic of charcoal. This is the really fun part with charcoal. You not ready for the magic? When you're drawing with charcoal, the key thing to get the gradual values is you're going to pull from the dark into the light. Okay, your hands probably already have some charcoal on them. That's great. You're going to use that to your advantage. If you don't have any charcoal on your fingers, you want some on there. Okay, so what you do is you target one of your dark areas like this, and just, you know, start to blend that in so there's no white of the paper left in there, and you're picking up some of the charcoal on your finger, which is exactly what you want, because then you can very lightly begin to pull that. For example, right under the eye right here, do you guys see that very subtle shadow? All I have to do is just take my finger and not a lot of pressure and just kind of pull some of that down onto the cheek a little bit. Or how about diffusing the light by making the edges soft? So like around those shapes for the eyelids, and just kind of very lightly blend those in. And it already starts to have more of a natural look. Pull some of that charcoal down onto the cheekbone. The nostril. Pull some of it over here. Now watch this. Add, oh, my charcoal broke, that happens. Add some black over here. There's nothing but a big black shadow. And then look at this. This is the beauty of charcoal. Watch. Just pull some of it up onto the cheek, and you start to get this really nice gradual change. If it went too much, like honestly, I kind of covered up a little too much there. Just erase it back. That's what's really nice about charcoal. It's very versatile, very easy to blend, work with. A little messy, but once you realize how far you can blend with it, you can begin to control it a lot better and get some very nice light effects with shading with light, shapes of light and dark. Let's go ahead and do the other cheek. Am I going too fast? Are you guys good? I'm going too fast? Just a little? Alright, I'll slow down. So this cheek over here, we're going to treat it basically just the same as we did there. Now there's a clear line on the side of the nose. That's going to be pretty important. As a matter of fact, before you start erasing that other cheek out there, I would go ahead and just take the very tip edge of your piece of charcoal and just draw as thin of a line as you can and just mark that out a little bit. If you're one of those people that likes to outline, you could outline this whole side of the cheek first. It's just kind of a curved, angled line down like that. But if you're not one of those kind of people, you don't have to do that before you start doing this. Erase this cheek out like this. Very simple. Erase the light out, and then again I'm going to just use my finger to pull some of the charcoal that I have and kind of subtly blend some of this stuff. I'm also going to go ahead and darken outside the cheek. See the figure start to emerge out of the shadows. Now, I don't know how you guys' drawings look like. How do the eyes look? My eyes definitely need some clarity. They need some detail. Okay, they need some work. So, this is where, instead of using your finger, you can use the blender stump. Technically, these are called tortillons. And you can begin blending inside in some of these little cracks and crevices, getting a little sharper edges on there. Maybe you've gotten a little charcoal happy and you have over blended. You need to come back with your eraser, clear out some of those shapes of light again. For example, I've almost lost my left eyelid. So do a little bit of clearing up of the eyes, and we're going to move down through the nose and the beard. Okay, we're just continuing to target areas of light and dark. Under the nose, there's a very clear dark shadow. Just for clarity's sake, I'm going to erase this to show you guys again. This is the shape, first thing you erased. Bottom of that nose just goes up to the right. But right underneath it, it's definitely dark. And that darkness looks like a triangle. So you can blend that shadow in a little bit. But then we have a very distinct large shape here that's the mustache. again, it looks like a long triangle. Yeah, there's like some little, fuzz coming off the bottom of it, but basically a long triangle. So take your eraser, erase out that angle. And there's another small little piece on the left side of light. The shadow under the nose connects right into this, it's the mouth. So right underneath the mustache, just make a dark horizontal shape like this. Now, well, you guys catch up. Here again is the beauty of charcoal. I can pull this dark line for the mouth up onto the mustache, and the direction that I pull it, watch, I can just take my finger and just very slightly pull that, or I can take my blender tool and pull finer lines, and all of a sudden I'm making that seem like the hair of the mustache just by the direction and the way that I pull it. Again, if you haven't drawn a lot with charcoal and you have a lot of charcoal on your paper, the tendency is going to be to overblend. So instead of just very lightly pulling it, you would do something like this where you're almost darkening up the whole thing again. If you do that, just come back with your eraser and erase out some light. Might be a happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. Now, can you guys see that shape of light that is his bottom lip? All right, try to capture that. It's just kind of a long oval shape right there. Just erase the shape of light. And then darken in around it. Now, fortunately, because this is a statue, this is actually a Michelangelo statue of the head of Jesus Christ. The hair is sculpted for us, which is wonderful, because when you're drawing, hair takes a lot of time, and it's always the most ridiculous, kind of tedious thing to do. But for this, it's already in big clumps or general shapes, so it's going to work really well for us. So to capture the beard here, you can see it can really just be summarized by one big ovally shape like this, and then we're going to put a few notches or marks of charcoal through it. So I'm just going to erase this to start. Big oval shape. While I'm in eraser mode, I'm going to go ahead and pull out a few of these shapes over here on the right side. That's going to eventually be for his beard, but a lot of that is going to be dark. That's the same approach we're going to do for the hair to finish the drawing up in a couple of minutes. You guys are doing great, following along really good. Now I want you to do some experimenting with your charcoal on this next part, on the beard, okay? By experimenting, I mean try to see what different things will do. If I make a mark like this with my charcoal, just one simple mark that's kind of like the curvature of the beard, and then pull it with my finger, you can see what that does. What happens if I make a mark and pull it with the blender tool? I get a little bit more fine details. Well, what if I want to subtly color some of that back in and erase marks out? All of these things, I want you to just try to have some creative freedom to capture the feel of the beard. Just a few marks like we did yesterday with hatching and cross hatching. You can just make a few little marks like this and then pull them. One mark, pull it. One mark, pull it. Erase stuff out. Vary your marks. Make big ones, small ones. I'm going to pull from underneath that lip some of that darkness and pull it onto the chin to make that look a little more natural. Add some dark underneath the chin and pull that in there in various ways to get it more natural. Go ahead and try to do that up through the beard too. Again, watch how simple it is. I can make one tiny little mark like this, that little mark I just made right there, and then just pull it. When we do our first big 100-point project, which is going to be chalk drawing of animals, some of these techniques are going to be very similar. Where you're making hair and stuff and fur on the animals, you just set a little nick or a little mark of color with the chalk and pull it. You want to try to get detailed? Do some stuff with your blender tool to make that really look like more detailed hair. Then it could even show up on the statue. When you're doing a reproduction like this, it doesn't matter if it looks exactly like it. What matters is if your drawing looks good and you've kind of captured a little bit of the likeness. It's the freedom of drawing. I'm going to go ahead and darken in out here on the right side of the beard. There's an obvious shadow there. Just going to pull that toward the edge of the paper for a little bit of a diffused look. And then all we have to do is finish up the hair and then clean up, of course. Before we erase the hair out, let's mark out a few of these really dark shapes. They're very distinguishing and they're very important. You already have you already know where two of them are actually, because they're right on top of that triangle shape, that tent shape that you did for his forehead. Just darken in right beside that on the left. Try to match the shape. It's kind of like a arrowhead shape. And then the other one you already have on the top right of your tent forehead shape. That's going to need to be darkened. and it has a little swirl to it. I'm going to have to push you guys pretty fast because I'm looking at the audience and you guys are just covered with charcoal, so we're going to have to clean up. But finish like this. I'm going to go through the last step real quick, okay? From the eye, this shadow connects out here into a pretty distinct shape, hooks around the cheek and connects out into here. The rest of it, you guys would erase the shapes of light out of the hair just like you did the beard, and then darken in a few distinguishing marks. You can take the side of the charcoal, it'll make you a longer line, and you can make marks like this using the side of it. Capture a few of those and then blend it, erase it, put the little details in. Spend as much time as you want trying to get the hair right, just like you did the beard. But we are going to have to clean up because you have 6 minutes and you guys are going to have to wash your hands and wash the tables, put all the charcoal back, and we have to spray these. Those of you guys at home, you can use some cheap hairspray, or you can just put an extra piece of paper over it as a cover sheet. It'll smudge and smear eventually. Try to use some spray or some fixative, something like that. Hairspray is fun. All right? Thanks for joining us. Have a nice weekend.